Good morning, everybody. We're on another episode from the Gutter to Greatness here, and I'm bringing you greatness again. I'm bringing you my brother Antwan Henry here, and the topic for today is Gutter to Greatness story. He goes from under the influence to influencer. Uh, his brother laughing, but his brother was, his life was totally different some time ago,
Right.
and his life was often a struggle and often in shambles. And he's going to talk about that, discuss it. He's going to give us the real because there's somebody out there that might be able to identify with that. And then he's going to share how he's moved and shifted and what he had to shift in his mindset to get there, to be able to be an influencer and to do some things that many aren't doing or aren't able to do. And it all started with his shift. So without further ado, I have Antwan Henry here. So Antwan, we always start with a question. So the question I always start with is, tell us what you're doing currently and why should anybody care?
Well, I'm a social media content creator. I'm a YouTuber. I'm on Instagram, TikTok, and the reason why you should care is because you can check out my story. You can see how we live our lives as a family of 9. In about 2 months, we'd be a family of 10. And
Good Lord, that's a lot of kids.
right. So 8 kids. It'll be 8 kids by June, and just seeing how a dad and a mom handles their business during the day.
Right. So y'all not doing gold digger videos?
No. We ain't shaking. We ain't jumping. We ain't doing none of that. We preaching the word of God. We telling you how to stay faithful and stay in the right path.
Okay, that's a good thing. I think a lot of people need that, especially in today's world, man, because the structure of family has been broken and often is broken in so many ways. And even as Black men, often there's this negative cycle where it was ingrained through our DNA, almost through slavery and through epigenetics, to pull away from the household and to procreate but with multiple women, and this was almost embedded or ingrained. And so it's our jobs to try to reverse that and bring the family units back together, do something different, and change the cycle and reverse that curse so that our kids can see different and we can create different generations. And so, just thinking about yourself, let's dig into it, man. Tell us where everything started at for you, little Twanny, when it is just a little young pup. Where'd you grow up at? What was that like? What did you learn? Tell us a little bit about your story, brother.
So I'm from Albany, New York. I'm from a single parent household. My father was in and out my life all his life, even up to now. He's been using drugs all my life, even up to now. And I was taught, by my mom. And then when my mom worked so much, it was like I was learning from anybody I could find. So it was more or less people that was your age. So if it was my mom was at work and I was 10, then I was talking to people that was 10. So it was no man structure, no structure of a male figure to tell me what I was doing wrong or right. So I didn't learn how to be now today a husband. As being married for 7 years, I'm still learning. I'm still learning how to be a man. I'm still learning how to be a better individual. I'm still learning how to be a father. See, as often as we get this narrative as we're supposed to be this individual, I was never taught how to use my emotions correctly. I never was taught how to express my feelings. So those are the things that I'm working on now, especially with being a husband.
Right. And so, with all that being said, I can only imagine some of the thought process that developed because I too was somebody that was getting raised with his friends. So
Right.
we were raising each other, and so
Mm-hmm.
our thought processes were often very similar. And the music, the times, the streets,
Right.
those were a lot of what influenced us and turned us to the way that we thought.
Mm-hmm.
What's just trying to understand more of the story. What is that gutted to greatness story? What were some of the things that you went through as a youth that you can remember or detail for us?
Um, a lot of fights. Growing up, you transition into different areas. You have to fight your way. Seeing drugs at an early age. Experiencing my father use drugs at an early age. Seeing, sexual explicit things at a younger age. Also, some days, you may not eat, you may not be living in a good environment. I lived in a hotel at one point, and then struggling, for ends meet.
What was that like? What was it like to live in a hotel? And where was the hotel at? Because I'm familiar with Albany. I'm not from Albany, but
Menands. We're not further out. So Green Tech. What it was called Jeremy's back then, but it's called. I think it was the Ramada End. It's on the hill,
okay.
right,
Yep.
right
in Arbor Hill area is the Ramada
Right.
Inn. So for those people listening, often is it, if I'm not mistaken, often homeless families get displaced, get placed there, and also in a few other locations. Is that accurate?
Well, back then it was a drug infested and whole house. So
Okay.
We lived in the front, so we didn't really get all the activity that happened in the middle or the back. So, but it was a lot of stuff that came in. It was always movement. You couldn't play nowhere. Where was I playing at? In front of the door. So you'll see the people coming in and out, soliciting or selling drugs, doing what they have to do. But it's just growing up, just living in day by day. We wind up moving out. My aunt had a house. We moved to a house with my aunt, and then we stayed. Me and my mom She tried her best. She tried her best to raise me. It was difficult at times. She had frustrations. She dealt with certain things that maybe she took it out on me that she shouldn't have. But growing up, you learn. Sometimes you learn from your mom if she's there. Then sometimes you learn from your friends. I did have uncles, but my uncles, they all drink. And then being around people that drink, that led me to drink. So, and it led me to my incarceration.
What was the first? Do you remember the first year or first age when you took a drink?
I was 9.
Right. So you remember what you drank?
It was a green can of beer. I don't know if it was Guinness or Hiss or something like that of that nature.
See, I always thought that that beer tastes like, and I don't know what pee tastes like, but it always reminds me of, like, especially if it's warm, like pee. So
Right.
I never really liked beer. But the interesting though, even though I didn't like beer, I think my first drink was, I think, a 40 ounce that we snuck, and it was like an old English that we snuck down into my basement, and we was drinking 40 ounces because you could go to the corner store. And even though you're not supposed to, we looked a little older, we could just go and buy the 40 ounces. And this was many moons ago. So do you remember, did you like the taste of it, or was it nasty?
I think it was just, the crazy thing, my father gave it to me.
Right.
So, the time that we shared, it was always negative. It was no positive times, that me and my father shared. So,
right.
but so I drank it because that's what he was drinking. So I don't remember the taste. But I remember drinking it because he drank it.
Right. And so that was the influence. And, as kids, they tell us as parents, a lot of times kids don't always remember what they hear, but they remember what you do. Right. Or they remember how you made them feel. And so that was something that you did together. And so that was something that a memory you created that lasted. So walk me through a little bit of a progression through drinking. So did the drinking stay like at 9? Does it stay at a minimum? When did it start becoming a little bit like more and a little bit harder?
Well, you at like those ages, you might sneak a little sip here and there, but it's not like this is your thing. Right. You still a kid at that. Well, for me, I still was a kid at that time, still trying to play football and still going to school, still at my mom's house. It's a structure. So I'm not doing those things. But when I see my father, he might have one and, like, here, do your thing. But when I got older, when I really started drinking, I was 18. My 18th birthday. I went to the club that night, and after that, once I had my first drink, it was over. My first drink, like, I could go to the bar and go buy, it was over. I was going to
So I know they wasn't supposed to let you buy it, but a lot of people weren't supposed to let people do things, and so you did. What Sneaky Pete's? What was it?
It was 518 Bogies over there by Victor VI.
Okay. So you went in there, you bought the drink. You remember what you bought? You remember what the first drink? All right. And why did you buy out of all things, why was it a Long Island iced tea?
Everybody was talking about it. Everybody was saying, get a Long Island. I got a Long Island. It had me tipsy for the whole night. And then next thing you know, Couple months later, I'm getting 2 Long Islands. Then then you're getting 3, and then now you're going to go hang out, and then you're going into the store to go get your own drink, and then your favorite drink is Henny.
Right. So how did it turn into like that progression of a habit, or how did you know that it became a habit?
I didn't know it was a habit until I got my first DWI.
Right.
So
What happened with that?
So I'm 18. I didn't get my first DWI until 27. So I didn't think it was nothing. So I'm just having weekend drinks. I wasn't drinking every day until,
Right.
but then, during college, I was drinking on the weekends. The next thing you know, you drinking because the party starts in Albany back then from Wednesday to Sunday. So
Right.
I'm drinking from Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. Then after that, when the party scene started dying down, you're drinking Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. And I still didn't think I was an alcoholic.
Right. And then so what happened with that first DWI? Do you remember like how you felt when you was getting pulled over, or were you too intoxicated to remember that?
I was a block away from my house. I remember everything.
What happened?
I had they was outside doing something to someone else and trying to arrest somebody else, and I rolled past. And he said something and flagged me over. Instead of me keep going, I pulled over, and we became me and the officer began to exchange words, and they took me down for and being intoxicated.
Right. So then what came with that? What consequences came with the first
It was a slap
DWI?
on the wrist. It was a slap on the wrist, fines. You get your license suspended for a couple of days. You got a conditional. You get your license right back.
Right. So then that happened, and what happened afterwards? So what did life go back to normal, or
Went
what?
back to normal. I went back to work. But it wasn't like as if I wanted to stop drinking. So you
Right.
had to do a 7 week class, 7 or 8 week class. I went to that class 7 or 8 weeks, and I had to drink.
So were you drinking when you were in the class and engaged in the class?
Absolutely.
I think about what were some of the thoughts that went through your head while you were in this class, but then you would go home and still drink.
I think more or less it's more of a depressant. Like you sitting there in this class, you hearing people's story, and you hearing, what can happen, this and the third. It's just like when they had that cigarette commercial, and you see the people that got, lung cancer or certain cancers or this, that, and the third. And people say after they see that commercial, they drink, they smoke. It's the same thing about going to that class. I'll go home and listen to these stories and go home and get a drink.
And I think about how many other people do that as well. And then, so how old were you when I met you? I think you were what, in your 30s at that point in time, maybe early 30s? What about 32?
Yeah, 30. Yeah, I work. No, you met me, and I think we didn't have a position for me at first. So I probably was 31 when you first met me.
Right. To provide a little context for everybody. So this brother came over to Green Tech, where I was the CEO and principal at, and he was interested in working with the kids and the young men. And like you said, I think the first time I didn't have a spot initially, but I was impressed because I felt like, you were a young brother who at the time, and I didn't know about the drinking stuff. I heard about that or found out later. But at the time, just a young man who was trying to do something for himself, who wanted to work with kids, who was trying to do something to give back, but also I think there was always deep in you wanted more, and you wanted to change your life and change your life circumstances, and you wanted to be more. But it felt like always once you were hired and I got to know you, that you were always struggling or wrestling with your own demons.
Right.
And then so I know we ended up hiring you, and then you were working. And then you worked for, how long were you there? About a year, 2 years?
I think a year.
Right. So you were there for a year, and Antwan was doing a good job. He was solid. He was working as a support staff, as like a paraprofessional, a teacher assistant, and was solid and was doing a good job. And then all of a sudden you had another. What happened?
I had that was my third one. So I had that conversation. I just got hired at
Third,
Brighter Choice.
third what?
DWI.
Okay, just making sure that people know as they're listening. So you had your third DWI,
Mhm.
and so what all happened?
I was I just got hired at Brighter Choice. Remember we had the conversation and I had you was like, yo, he said I wanted to stay at Green Tech. And I
Right.
went and talked to you first and you was like, we can't pay you more than what they're gonna pay you now. He said, but if anything comes up, I'll call you. And I took the job and I was going to I guess I was celebrating. I think I had, called, some of the coworkers and I had conversations and I had my kids. And I wind up was drinking with my kid, drinking and got in the car with my kids, and they pulled me over.
Yeah, and I think that I remember our conversation and that you were leaving.
Mhm.
Um, and so for those out there listening and who are in leadership, my conversation always is going to be if somebody's going to do something that's going to better themselves or better their future, and it's a moving on. I don't ever take that personal. I want people to do what's best for them and
Right.
to be able to, you know, um, just better their lives. And so you never want to hold people back. So I didn't want to hold his brother back. He was moving on. God bless him. He didn't do anything shiesty or didn't do it the wrong way. Very transparent about that. He was, he wanted to move on. We just couldn't afford to match what they were doing. So
Mhm.
I hear you say you went out, you celebrated, and
Right.
you had your kids in the car, and
Mhm.
you had all of these drinks. So do you remember what you were drinking that night or that
Patron.
day?
Patron.
Right, and that's actually I like tequila, so that's my drink of choice.
Right.
Um, what's interesting though, Antoine, is that alcohol and drugs have never been my vice, but it's been women.
Right.
So like that's been my vice, and how I've often dealt with my emotional issues and other struggles is by turning to women to make me feel better versus
Right.
alcohol and drugs, and we as black men have not been taught often to deal with our emotions, and so what did you learn about being emotional or having emotions as a black man,
Suppress them.
and why do you think, and why is that, and where did that come from?
That came because you don't have anyone to talk to. So when you suppressing those feelings, and you got people your age, and you trying to tell them about, you can't tell them about something that's going on with you because it's a joke. You may made ridiculed or made fun of. So and then like some of the things you going through, you can't tell your mother. Like your mom, first of all, woman is emotional anyway. So when you talking to a man, they have logic features telling you, hey, bro, this is normal, or this is, you need to talk about your feelings. So we don't have that option growing up. I mean, we see the men that we see that's is drug dealers or gang members. We need more men in the community just walking. I mean, just having those community talks. At one point, at your local community center, you had those. But then at the same time, they're not telling their emotions or telling you to be a punk in front of somebody else or cry. It's okay to cry, or it's okay to really talk about your emotions. Sometimes the best healing is crying.
Right.
You let all those emotions and endorphins out by crying, and then you get a chance to get you some rest after crying. And still to this day, sometimes I have those. I'm not gonna talk about it. I'm gonna hold it in. But then I gotta teach my son what's going on. You know, Nobody's coming. We have to have more men that's coming to these kids and saying, "Hey, how you doing?" Shaking their
Right.
hand.
And
Mhm.
trying to talk, trying to have these conversations, trying to get, and that's a lot of reason why we're here talking
Right.
about these things is because as black men, we were often taught that not to have emotions, not to be vulnerable, and that vulnerability equals weakness, and
Right.
that weakness can make you unsafe. And
Mhm.
so, and weakness is, those all those pieces together is a storm that you don't want or need as a black man.
Right.
And actually the opposite because you're holding it in and then you're looking for an outlet, and your outlet often becomes something inappropriate, or
Right.
something of what you think it should be, rather than something that would be healthy, because we're not taught how to healthily deal with it. And so, just thinking about all of this and thinking about it. So you were drinking, you had the kids in the car. Do you remember being arrested and the feelings that you went through? What was
Yeah.
that
So at first, when I got arrested, I was like, I'll be home. And then when I really got there, and they was like, it's time to go to Shaker Road. That was my first time going to jail. Like, it's not about being afraid and that. It's about just you disappointing your family. That was the main thing that was going through my mind. I just got this job. I could have made a difference in my household, and it was all shattering. And then when I got there, I was there for a couple hours. I got bailed out, and then had to go back and forth to court. And going back and forth to court was like, afterward, you're trying to fight it. I don't want to go to jail. I don't want to go to jail. Is there a way I could just get probation or this, that, and the third? And then me and it's my wife, my girlfriend at the time, but my wife, she was like, you might as well just go do the time. And I went in, did my time, and came home.
Right. And so when you like walk me through now, was there was a plea? Was there
Yeah, yeah, I was well, I was trying to just get probation. But
right.
then he tried to counter offer and said go to jail, drug court, and probation. So I just took the 6-5.
What does that mean?
6-5 is 6 months in 6 months in jail, which will be home in 5 years probation.
All right. So you took that that first day that you had to surrender yourself. Walk us through what that was like, from the time that you kissed your wife and your kids goodbye to when you enter. What was that like? What happened?
Playtime was over. you getting cuffed. You going in there, doing your plea. I still asked, can I get probation? He said no. You getting booked. You going in the back room. You cuffed to a bench, and you ready to get transferred to Shaker Road. Once you get cuffed, you in line with all these people that was already going to trial. So I'm thinking it's just gonna be me and this guy in the bus. Now it's me, this guy, and like 20 other dudes, because they was in court and other trials and whatever, this and the third. So once you get in, then you gotta get classified. Then you going in there, you getting, you're taking your clothes off, you getting putting other clothes, your jumpsuit on, and then you get ready to go into your dorm room. You go into your dorm room, it's 23-1. So that you 23 hours in one cell, you got 1 hour to get outside. But at that time, we wasn't going outside, so you just walking around your bed, and that's your tier. So you're on that tear for 4 days. While you're on that tear for 4 days, you seeing the worst food of worst, canned meatloaf, and you get a biscuit, and you got Kool-Aid that stains the floor, so you don't want to drink none of that.
Oh man!
And then after your 4 days, you get classified. So when you get classified, you get ready to go to your tier where you're getting ready to go stay at. So I'm getting ready to go to my tier. First, I'm at a tier. I'm in a bay where people are still going to trial. So I still ain't get to my bay where I'm getting ready to go to work. Because once you get there, you're doing work. So I was there for about a week or two, and then I wound up going to my bay and outside clearance. So I got a chance to have outside clearance. I got one-on-one visits where my visits didn't had really no time. So I lucked up with that. So my wife came to visit me. She had about an hour or two, probably like 2 or 3 hours, depending on the CO at that time. But,
right. And so what was it like going to sleep at night in this open area with 23 other people who were waiting for potential serious crimes?
one eye open. I mean, at first, and then after a while, you start knowing people. People start knowing who you is, asking questions. So it's not really that serious. But at the same time, you still on your P's and Q's. Jail is how you gonna make it. If you want to be that tough guy, you're somebody that's gonna be tough with you. This one I really knew I was an influencer. So This when I really knew I had some type of influence. And
Why is that?
because I wasn't in there I wasn't in there trying to be a tough guy,
Right.
but I was in there trying to change my life around. Even though I had, I said we had words with people. I had words with people. I had problems and situations that went on in jail. But at the same time, I was going to church. And I remember at one point I had 10 people coming with me to church. And for like having that many people that never even sought God or even thought about God and made me feel as if like, yo, bro, I could talk to you about anything, made me feel like I was something, I was called something that I didn't even know I was at that time. So I had influence on people to change their life that could come with me to church. So
Absolutely. Now, what was the most traumatic thing that you saw while you were in there or locked up, or did you see anything that was traumatic?
uh we was I think my first day when I got down to the bay, um, they had, I guess they was, people talk junk to these COs like they, whatever. And the CO came in because he usually talk crap, talk a lot of junk. He came in, didn't say nothing. And about 30 minutes later, about 30 COs rushed our bed. I seen kids get slapped, beat up, everything. And then you got to stand in front of your buck and look straight like you in the army. And they just terrorized the whole bed, knocking people's soups over, water, beating up. They tore the whole place up.
No, it's definitely not somewhere that somebody wants to go. So what made you start as you were there? What was the major factor? Was it an event, or was it the time? Was it a person? What was it that made you start to think or want to do things differently?
My transition in the jail, it was y'all. It was you. It was Mel Hood. It was all y'all. Cyber having conversations. I was like, yo, you just got to change. So I was already starting to change before I went to jail. So at that time I wasn't. I stopped drinking, and then trying to get myself together before mentally before I even went in there. Like again, I wasn't afraid to go to jail. I was just afraid that my family. I was afraid about that. Afraid of my sons, my daughter, my daughters, and my wife.
Right. So I hear you saying that, and I'm glad that I was able to have some positive influence there, man. I appreciate that.
Mhm.
That there were some people around you that were trying to influence you positively to do something different and to shift your mindset, and you started to listen. Um, what was that healing process look like, and when did it start?
Oh, man. That healing process in jail. It started in jail, but it really started like because I'm still going through it. So it started once I got to Jacksonville. Once I went to church, because
Right.
the reality is are there people out there that can support you? So you can't do. I'm gonna be real. Whoever's watching this right now, you cannot do it by yourself. No shape or form. Whatever you're going through, whatever you're trying to transition into, you can't do it by yourself. Yes, you have God, but you need to see people that's trying to transition just like you or have
Right.
been through. So I got with a spiritual group, and my spiritual father, he been pouring into me. And you seeing people that the toughest people you gonna find in church. They all been gangsters, they all been something. And they'll tell you a story or they'll tell you like, this is my transition. So it makes you feel like you ain't alone. It makes you feel like you wasn't the only person that messed up, or in our word, effed up. So
Yeah.
I felt like I messed up bad. And there's people that had worse story, had similar stories or stories that was worse, and stories that 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 you like, whoa, it makes your story like it ain't nothing.
Right. So
Mm-hmm.
you got out of jail,
Mm-hmm.
and so what you did the 4 months, and you started to make these transitions, and I'm sure, like if I'm guessing, I'm sure it was probably even harder after you got out of jail because now you're free again. Now
Mm-hmm.
there's influence around you that could be negative,
Mm-hmm.
and now you have a record and there's things that are prohibiting you probably from doing things that you want to do now. What did it look like when you got out of jail?
Well, I think the record is just an excuse. I think, I mean, yeah, you might want to get this job or whatever, but if it's something that you really want to do, you can do it. It's not always prohibiting you to the place where you feel like you can't move forward. You know what I mean? Unless it's like assault or something major, like a major crime or something like that. Mine is, I was drinking and driving. You know what I'm saying? So it wasn't like something that I can use and say, all right, I can't move forward. That wasn't the option, nor was the case. The other thing is that my wife said we leaving. And we moved down to Jacksonville. And people, places, and things wasn't normal. You know, even though I could go to the liquor store or this, that, and the third, but if I want my family, I ain't going to the liquor store.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? So some of the things that was normal wasn't normal. You know, I got this family, you know, I'm in church now. I gotta really uphold this image. This image is me getting up every day, being a father, a husband, the best way I can be, and the son of God. So, I mean, it's not like an image like I'm fronting or being something for someone else. No, this is what I need to do right now. This is my image. This is what I need to hold. And it wasn't a hard transition to me. I mean, only thing I couldn't do at the time was travel out of the country. I went to, you know, being on probation, I went everywhere.
Did you want it? Did you ever want, or have you wanted to take a drink?
Yeah. All the time.
That's real. You know, and that's real. So, you know, I think about that in myself and my own vices. And I think about, you know, I'm trying to, and I'm living on a path that is, that's staying away from my vices, but you still have that thing in you, or that itch, right? Or you have that call for it, especially when things aren't going exactly the way you want them to go, or you're having a bad day, or you want something to replace that. And you think about it, and you know, I often have to fight that thought and try to replace that thought with gratefulness and gratuity and just a different emotion, and think about all the blessings that I have, that I don't need that vice anymore. And I absolutely know how difficult it is. So what have you done what has been the biggest influence to keep you away from falling back into that vice?
My wife, my children first, God first, but you know, my wife and children. You know, things get tough in your marriage. Your marriage ain't never gonna be easy. You know, so I mean, they say you gotta, you know, it get lighter, but you know, things happen. You know, a brick might, you know, something might fall, you know, something might break. It might be as simple as that. But just my family and knowing what it'll do to me. Like you know how you feel when you got your itch. You know how it feel when, you know, you have, you know, you want to drink. You know, you might feel like Superman. You might feel like, you know, I can be transparent, whatever. But if I can't feel that way without a drink, then that definitely tells me I don't need it.
Right. And there's more emotional baggage that you probably need to heal from. And I'm still working on heal. I still go to therapy and counseling and try to work on my own healing and trying to figure out, you know, what is it really that's hurt me and hurt me to the core, that I've been covering up, and that I need to work through and deal with, and what's triggering me now, and how do I, you know, it's a process. And it never stops. And I think one thing that you said that's really important is that you said you're not going to let it be your excuse, you know, and not making excuses, because I think a lot of our brothers out there like to make excuses, and these excuses turn into why they can't do something instead of it being the reason why they are doing something. And, you know, and changing that narrative for yourself and for your family. And so, you know, what really around your narrative do you find that still is the biggest struggle that you're dealing with, that if somebody was listening, they know that, you know, just because you've transitioned, that you're not perfect?
One of the biggest struggles is, you know, dealing with your emotions and not allowing your emotions to be so controlling that you go do something stupid, or you're going to do something that you know you shouldn't be doing. You know, making sure that you're accountable for every situation that happens. your story and what you've been through, you still have to own accountability for. So, you have to address that first. Address that you made a mistake. It ain't the end of the world. We all make mistakes. Jesus was tested 40 days, 40 nights. So you're going to be tested too. So we all have to know that we're going to be tested, and knowing that you're going to be tested, knowing that it's something that's going to come. This thing is going to be aired, and this is me telling my testimony. And I remember,
absolutely.
And I remember when I had gone on stage at my church. There's 4,000 members at my church, and I told them my testimony. And me and my wife and my elder told me, he said, y'all gonna be tested. Right after this, once you air this, I'm gonna be tested. And I gotta know that. And I gotta keep myself prayed up. That no matter what you're going through, you're gonna be tested.
Right. Absolutely. And that's part of moving from a fixed mindset to a growth mindset. So right. I have this like the 5 steps of moving to from a fixed mindset to a growth mindset. First being welcoming all challenges. The second being that you anticipate that there's going to be obstacles. The third thing is that greatness comes from your effort.
Right.
The fourth thing is that be able to accept criticism and listen and learn from it. And the fifth thing is letting others inspire you, right. and not hating or because someone else has something that you don't have, but letting it inspire you to build this mindset and knowing that you're in a marathon and not a sprint, and moving towards this mindset and shifting towards that is kind of the 5 key steps to doing things differently. And for you, what is the biggest thing that you needed to change to stop limiting your potential?
Accountability. Own up to your accountability. Take accountability for your actions.
And what did that mean for you?
That means that that means for me is that you did something wrong. Nobody else did it. You can't blame nobody. You can't blame your past. You can't blame your mama. You can't blame your daddy. You can't blame your situation. Because at the same time, you became, you got a little older. And being older, you do get mature regardless of how you feel. Because you understand right from wrong. So taking accountability for your actions.
All right. So as you started to do that, all right, walk me through. So y'all moved to Florida. And when y'all moved to Florida, was things just automatically, things are great now?
No.
No. So y'all moved to Florida. What happened?
You gotta find your way. You moving to Florida, you ain't got no resources. You ain't got nobody that's gonna help you to, being from New York and coming to a place that people are giving, like Florida's kind of welcoming. You go to these churches, they welcome. And when you're coming from New York, it's moving. People are more not welcoming. So it's hard to accept the welcoming side of it first.
Right.
Why are these people so nice? Like you skeptical, and then not knowing where you can get your resources, your help from. Like, we in this new place, we trying to travel from one side of the city to the other side of the city to find out, doctors and appointments and stuff like that. Then finding schools and, a lot of it kind of grew our marriage or made us stronger, made us lean on each other. When you got I got a good wife, and having a good wife, that allows me to be able to be a better man. She holds me accountable for every situation that's going to happen. If it's something that you said, she's going to hold you accountable. So that means that if I know that she's going to hold me accountable, it makes me step up my game. So your support system, even, I have a little bit of family out here, but that's not the family I know in New York. So it's still a trust factor. So it's not, you leaning on each other. You finding out your strengths and weaknesses that you find out a strength that you never even knew you had. Because now you ain't relying on me picking up the phone and saying, hey, yo, doc, can I get a job? Nah, you're going to have to really talk and find out your niche about how to get a job.
So what'd you do for employment when you got to Florida?
I was a counselor. I worked at with people with mental illness. And it was right down my alley. I'm talking to these people and, seeing that, they telling me their stories, and then understanding how Florida was back in the, the 70s and the 80s. And, these people were still working in the field, and, and then they had trauma and the trauma issues, and talking to them and willing to deal how we deal with our traumas now. We're going to work on our steps as a whole, as a group, being creative. I can be creative. It's my group. I got 20, 30 clients. It's my group. I can be creative. I'm a teacher. I'm back in the teaching flow, doc. So, it felt good.
Okay.
It felt good. I had them going I had got hooked up with my church. They was going to pantries. They was getting haircuts. I had them getting, I had women coming in trying to do their hair. I was doing, making this little job something special. And then, that's my passion, working with people.
Got you. So when you were working with people, how the shift to do content creation, and where did this idea come from, and where did it all start at, and how did that happen?
So my wife take pictures, and we got to wear same outfits and stuff like that. And I was taking pictures and posting on Facebook and getting like 200-300 likes. So then she started, doing her research about, social media. And then next thing you know, she said, I think we should tell start, doing social media. So it started off with us trying to do like little skits and stuff like that. But then I was like, we so much bigger than that. So why don't we just tell our, tell reality, shift who we is. We already been independent. We'll go somewhere and people start talking to us out of nowhere. And that's how it started. We was posting pictures, we get a lot of likes, and the next thing you know, we just started talking about our story. And I didn't really even get to the logistics. I think this is the first interview where I really got to like the nitty gritty of my story, and it's still more of it.
What are we missing? What are we missing? What is it that
the infidelity part? Like when you talk about women, that was my thing. Running the streets. I wasn't no gangster or no gang member or none of that. I sold drugs. Childhood memories, childhood trauma, stuff like that. And, not knowing that it's childhood trauma until you sit there and you really talk to a therapist.
And a lot of times that childhood trauma, you don't know how you suppress it, and it makes you behave as an adult, and you don't realize it, and I know I often felt unloved, uncared about, unwanted for a multitude of reasons that I've talked about on other shows here. But when I felt like that, it transferred into my first marriage. It transferred into how I moved. It transferred into that I always had to stay busy and still kind of stay busy, so I don't ever have to think or be alone with my thoughts and my feelings. Right. And so it has affected me in many different ways, and and just dealing with that. And then, like you said, the infidelity or the trauma, and the fact that you've had this woman who has decided to stay with you and get through it. More props to her, to helping you transition and getting through to be a better man, and to be the man that you need for yourself, but also for her. So, right. That must be a testimony and a strength to her, because she could have left. I've seen the videos. She's attractive, so I'm sure there's other men out there that would be interested, but she wanted you and right. desired to stay with you and fight through it. So, that sounds like a real ride or die, man. And it's a blessing that you have that opportunity with somebody who is doing that with you and also for you. Right. As you transition into this content, what has been the struggles, or what has been the and also the ups with it? So what does the whole process look like of content creation?
Well, you filming your lifestyle. You gotta, then you edit in it, once you cut through the screen. But sometimes the difficulty I find is putting the pieces together for my story. So I think, do I really want to share it? And then how effective will it be? Maybe somebody, maybe then you get those doubts like, nah, it's not gonna help no one. The ups is that you could be whoever you want to be. You know, you could be your real self. You know, you don't have to be Superman on YouTube. You could be yourself. And some people are just gonna gravitate to you, and some people are not. You know, you get those comments where people are saying, you know, negative things, but thank you. You know, thank you for your negative thought. I need it. Because without your negative thought, I can't grow.
No, definitely. What's now? You know, I'm asking. So what's because different videos. So me learning about the YouTube and making money off of YouTube. Every video has the opportunity to be monetized. So what's
Right.
the most that a video has ever made you out of for one video? Yeah, I'm asking the question. You know, you can always tell me mind my business, but you know, people want to know.
You can say from 3 to 7,000.
Okay. And I think that's great. I think and think about it, if you're putting out 10 of those and you're making $3,000 to $7,000, you know, that there's some opportunity there. And I think there's other people that want to be content creators as well. And I just think about the influence that you have when you're doing it. And I think there's people who make $40,000, $100,000 off of one video, and is just figuring out how to hit the different niches and the different milestones and the keywords. And, there's more to it than
Right.
just making videos. Yeah.
Well, I think, you know, right now for our biggest thing is just, you know, it's just putting out what, you know, your truth, you know, just knowing what's your avenue, you know, whatever you do good at. If working with kids is something that you do good with, it's somebody out there that needs to learn how to work with kids better.
Right.
And if you being an alcoholic, there's somebody out there that was an alcoholic that's still trying to stop drinking. And those are the things that, you know, we all have. That's why God tells you that we all have gifts, and you could find your gift and your niche and post it on YouTube, and that's a good thing. But people don't know how sniffing they are. You know, that comes from, you know, your childhood. People don't know how great they are. And I think, you know, once somebody, you know, understands how great they are and get that love that they need, sky's the limit.
Right. So if you had to talk about because God, like you said, God gives us gifts. He gives us a superpower. If you had to say what your superpower is, what was your superpower that God gave you, and how are you using it?
Being a supporter and a father.
Okay, why is that your superpower?
I think my second nature is I'm a nurturer and I'm a caregiver. So I could perform that role. Like it's easy. I could change a diaper, cook dinner, and, you know, do homework all at the same time with no problem. And, you know, even though I had to learn it, but it's like second nature. I think and being supportive. You know, I'm my wife's biggest fan. I'm her cheerleader. So this is her thing. That back there,
right?
That's her. That ain't me. And
right.
I support everything she does, good, bad, fail, whatever. You know, I support it. So learning how to shift into, you know, being a supportive and not needing support. So I think that's God's gift for me.
And you said that back there. It looks like that's the YouTube sign. What is that? To explain what you got going on there.
So that's her. She has 100. We have 1 million subscribers. So this one was for 100,000. The 1 million subscriber thing should be in the mail soon.
Wow, 1 million subscribers. That's a huge amount of subscribers. That's big, man. Congratulations.
Thank you.
And y'all keep doing it and going. So what does it look like in the future? What do you think's next? What do you think's coming for you? What do you want to achieve?
Well, hopefully, you know, I'll be able to have a conversation with you and see where you're going with the stuff that you're doing. But I want to sit and talk to people. I want to go to the classrooms. I want to go to the schools. I want to go to the jails. I want to go to the group homes. You know, that's my thing. I want to get into the nitty gritty with these people, sit down, have these conversations, and let them know that I've been through the same thing you've been through. I want to get back. That's what I wanted. I'm ready for. I'm ready to transition.
Absolutely, that transition is necessary, and I believe as long as you keep your heart in it and your heart right, and you do things for the right reasons, and you do what God wants, God's going to give you what you want as well, and provide for you and keep providing, and all these amazing things that are happening for you and your family. So, if you had to give like three things that someone could duplicate to shift into their greatness, to move from their gutter to greatness, what would those three things be?
Find God, pray, and ask every question that you need to Him.
Okay.
He's gonna tell you. Write it down in the journal, and He'll reveal it.
Absolutely. And that's part of, like, I have a 25-day challenge that will help people shift from their gutter to greatness, and that'll be coming out with the new book, and just trying to help people move and motivate. And the challenge is to have people work on themselves so that they can be better people, but also be better for others. And so, and to shift, because a lot of it is about mindset.
Right.
And so, when did you notice that your mindset was starting to shift, and yet you were moving from the old Antwan Henry to the new Antwan Henry, and you started to move from that gutter mentality to your mentality of greatness?
I basically started telling myself, I was, regardless if I had that mindset of gutter, I was telling myself I wasn't that. So I'm not an alcoholic no more. I don't need extra women. I don't need drugs. I don't need this. Just telling myself that I'm great. And like when you said your mindset is basically what you're telling yourself. And because it's gonna be words, it's gonna be something that's gonna tell you that you're not that. So by that being said, you have to allow whatever that's triggering that, and you have to overcome it, and you have to tell yourself, you got to look at yourself in the mirror. I'm the head and not the tail. I'm a lender and not a borrower.
All right. Now I got an activity here, so I'm going to put some things. I'm put some things on the screen, and you got to kind of give me your first thought that comes to my mind. Just the quick first thought. Answer it as succinct as you can. So when you see the term, and I'll read it so other people are listening, they can hear what it is, and then you answer it, right? Mm-hmm. So you are creating your own reality.
Truth. My truth. My truth. My story.
I am so happy and grateful.
For my wife and children.
Write out your goals and how to obtain it.
Keep it vivid. Keep it on a board. Keep it visual.
Turn your goals into your script.
Every day. Say it to your 369 method.
Turn your setbacks to your setups.
Make sure that every time that you think that you can't drive forward looking in the mirror of your window. So look forward.
Everything you focus on creates your reality.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
My reality is what I make it.
Yes, I agree.
Memory is a replay of your past. Your imagination is a pre-play of your future.
Amen. Amen.
From under the influence to influencer.
Antwan Henry.
Okay. So who is Antwan Henry now?
Antwan Henry is a husband, father of 8, and a man of Christ before anything else.
Okay. How many kids do you think y'all gonna? Yeah. How many y'all shooting for, man?
I'm thinking 10. I'm thinking 10.
Okay. Is the wife okay with this? Is the wife down for this?
She looks at me. I don't know. She says whatever God has in store. So I'm going with that.
Okay, whatever God has in store. So just shoot it to the wind, and if it sticks, then yeah. Merry Christmas.
Right.
You know, so what are you currently doing to help someone else reach their greatness?
Most of the right now, I'm talking on my personal info YouTube page, and also me and my wife we have series where we're talking about our marriage, and some of the stuff that's going on, like the health systems, Duval School District, stuff like that. So
Okay.
understanding your options when you got your kids in school, understand your options when you're married, understand your options with healthcare. And right now I'm in a transition phase, and I'm talking about my transition phase.
Okay. Now you got 1 million subscribers over there. Throw some of them over to the Gut of the Greatness.
All right.
Get some. Tell them to go over and subscribe and listen to how people move from their gut of the greatness, and to watch your story, and to listen and to learn. And that's all about, everybody's gut is in a different place, man. Everybody's gut isn't always where you're from. A lot of times it's where you're at. And is it your mentality, and how do you move your mindset to move to be greater later? And that's what this whole Gut of the Greatness movement is, and trying to get people to shift into their mindset. Is there anything else? You got any 60 seconds or less to kind of just share anything you want to share with the folks that are listening about either what you're doing, or some parting words that you want them to walk away with from this whole conversation?
If I was to tell you to do anything, try the 3-6-9 method. Write on the index card 3 things about yourself that you want to do. Read it in the morning 3 times. Then read it in the afternoon 6 times. Then read it in the evening at 9 times, right before you go to bed. So you can have it embedded into you, who you are and what you want and who you're going to be.
No, thank you. I really appreciate Antwan for coming on today. This has been another episode of the Gut of the from the Gut of the Greatness, and this brother went from under the influence to influencer, and a lot of what he said here today, I'm sure it applies to you in your life, because what he had to change was accountability. He wasn't holding himself accountable. He was letting the excuses and the trauma and the pain overtake him and do things that weren't healthy for him. But once he started to hold himself accountable and allow the people around him to also hold him accountable, he now transitioned and shifted his mindset into moving towards greatness. So you can take this lesson from this brother and look at yourself. Look at what you're not doing. Look at what you need to hold yourself accountable for. And those are the hardest things, to look in the mirror and look in the mirror and say, hey, I know I'm not doing that right. I know I just did that wrong. I know I just made this mistake. I know this is what's costing me, and here are the consequences, but I'm ready to face them. I'm ready to deal with them. I'm ready to do something different. So it's about holding yourself accountable and willing to make the changes that you need to shift to move from your gut to greatness, and I just want everybody out there who's listening knowing that it's possible. Look at this brother's story, man. He went from jail to now an influencer with 1 million subscribers and a huge audience of people who are listening and people who are learning and watching, because they see his transition and they know that it's possible. And so if it's possible for him, it's possible for you. So until next time, I want you to tune in, and we'll be bringing you more from the Gut of the Greatness. I just really appreciate everybody who tunes in weekly, and we're just going to bring you more greater later. Until next time, see you later.
That's it for today's episode. So head on over to iTunes or wherever you listen to podcasts and subscribe to the show. One lucky listener that posts a review on iTunes will win a chance in the grand prize drawing for a $25,000 private epic VIP day with Dr. Miller himself. Be sure to head on over to guttertogreatness.com and pick up a free copy of Dr. Miller's gift, and join us on the next episode.